Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff. I guess I would open it up to the four of you in sort of the broadest sense to say, what is the future of cloud computing? Now, not in one particular area or sector, but if you look out 5 years, is there something surprising, something we're not expecting, or where are we going to be at, several years down the road now in terms of cloud computing? Kaushik, I would throw it back to you. Where are we going to be in any sector 5 years from now with cloud computing?
I see. I see some very interesting approaches to cloud even now that I think are going to evolve and probably become mainstream in about 5 years from now. One trend I see, and this applies to a lot of companies that are not encumbered by regulation in general, is a trend around enablement. The CIOs want to really embrace cloud. They believe that cloud's going to be a differentiator to their business in terms of the agility and how they're going to differentiate with regards to innovation. And there are some very interesting examples of that. So we have some of our customers talk about the whole idea of I mentioned shadow IT, but I would credit this to one of our customers who talked about shallow IT, right? Which is the idea that you have so many of these services in use, and IT cannot go and do the job of selecting these services. So you let your users use these services, and then look at where your critical mass is, and then make a choice as IT to reconcile around the most used sort of app or service. So you're basically using your entire user base as a feedback mechanism to make selection rather than actually run pilots and projects. So there's some very innovative sort of models that are evolving, wherein there are a whole bunch of CIOs that are looking at cloud and saying, we have to go here, we have to use cloud, and kind of starting to make decisions on which cloud providers they want to actually sort of consolidate around, whether it's storage or whether it's CRM or whether it's video conferencing and the like. We also see a set of organizations be very conservative about cloud and fear that. And recently what's happened through the whole phenomenon of Prism actually has actually added to some of that as well, because they not only fear loss of data in terms of loss of data to attackers, but they also fear loss of data to the government, right? I mean, It is something that's very, very evident that has had an impact, especially for customers that are not in the U.S. geography, right? That are in Europe, that are very sensitive to privacy in general, right? And so we do see that, but even there, the approach is not really to say, let me not use cloud, but what are the security countermeasures that can be used to protect data so that it does not get compromised. So I see a world in 5 years wherein cloud is very, very pervasive. I mean, today if you look at the two big cloud providers that are very pervasive, you look at Salesforce.com as a service offering, and you look at Amazon as an infrastructure provider. Especially with Salesforce.com, we've done some studies wherein it's about 87% of all enterprises use Salesforce.com. I mean, that's across the board, right? I mean, it's become pretty much the standard. I mean, I bet my colleagues here in some way using Salesforce.com here as well, right? But the point is that I think I see that being pervasive across the board. And this is what our data is telling us as well, that in 5 years, it's not just going to be CRM and sales automation, but across the board, whether it's collaboration, whether it's storage, whether it's video conferencing, whether it's productivity, all aspects of a service delivery are going to move to the cloud. And the question is essentially building that security model that's allowing an IT organization to run that safely and securely.
Mm-hmm. Rich, peer into your crystal ball and see the future of cloud computing 5 years from now, 3 years from now. What's it going to be like? Maybe something surprises us. Who knows?
Sure. I tend to agree with Kaushik that it's going to be quite a bit more pervasive, and I think what we're going to have is that a situation where everyone kind of gets what they want, right? I mean, right now you have this back and forth between IT and the security folks where they're trying to maintain control, and then you have the lines of business and the employees that are kind of looking for the apps that they want, apps like Salesforce or apps like Dropbox, right? And I think what we're starting to hear, we talk to CIOs and CISOs on a daily basis, and we're starting to hear this cloud-first strategy more and more often today, right? And what they mean when they say that is that when we're looking at a new application or new deployment for an application, first we look at the cloud version of said application or said application category, and only if for some reason it can't meet our minimum needs will we fall back to the traditional premises type of environment, right? And that kind of mindset starts with your more progressive IT organizations, but as with everything else that's a trend like this, it kind of starts to filter out to other groups as well, right? I mean, do I see, I don't know, an organization like Coca-Cola taking the secret recipe for Coke out of their locked up vault and putting it on Dropbox in 5 years? No, absolutely not.
You don't
right?
think
But
that would be safe?
I don't know. I mean, I just
Maybe.
They keep it in a vault apparently, right?
Right.
So,
it's probably written on paper, I'm guessing. They probably need to digitize that formula.
Yeah, really. So, but I mean, yeah, definitely this pervasiveness will arrive. I mean, there's a lot of, in most cases, economic cost benefits for organizations as they move specific applications and workloads out to the cloud. So that's going to be a big driver for IT organizations and CIOs to adopt, to more and more adopt this cloud-first type of strategy, right?
Yeah. John, the future of cloud computing, say the year is now 2018. We're going to look back at this video and we're going to go, wow, they didn't see this one thing. I'm thinking there must be something involving data, given your stance, but where are we going really with cloud computing?
I do. I think businesses, whatever they produce, whether it's knowledge-based services or hard goods, the world's also going to become increasingly instrumented. And as a consequence, you're going to see much more data flowing in ways that will require, I think, new forms of applications. And what's very critical about this is that data storage at scale is going to become a preeminent factor for how companies in the future are going to be able to analyze and have a closed-loop system of analyzing what they produce and how they produce it, because they will have instrumented so much of the so-called Internet of Things. And I think there's an emerging trend.
What does that mean to have instrumented it, just so I'm sure I know what you mean?
Everything from a coffee maker to your refrigerator.
No,
to
I don't
your
mean the
car.
Internet of Things, but you use the phrase to instrument something. What in a control panel, you mean?
No, I actually mean the actual metering of the performance, state, and use of whatever it is you've built. And we at Cloud Physics think that a data center is one of the most instrumented objects in the world, and it's worth analyzing to figure out how to run it better, basically. We just think that as this form of instrumentation leads to more data, that I believe cloud service providers will start to segment themselves, and you'll start to see entire companies and infrastructures that will be specializing in the hosting and processing and analysis of this data. And I think what's up for grabs is whether all of that corporate-generated data, generated by the products that corporations produce, whether that will see life inside of something that is currently part of the cloud service market, or whether this will be something that corporations will want to retain and control on their own, and it will become the core platform for their business. So we just see data everywhere, obviously, and we think that the ability to analyze it and simulate off of it is really where the future of a lot of the service provision is going to go. Great.
Stu, the future of cloud computing several years out, I'm sure it involves telephony, BYOD, working from home. What do you see in the future?
Yeah, I think it's all those things, but I think what the biggest statement I'll make is that a couple years from now, we'll finally be past most of the security and privacy concerns that everybody's flagging as obstacles today. Mm-hmm. And I think the big obstacle, the big challenge, the big emphasis in everybody's mind is then going to be interoperability. A great example is this call. We're using a cloud service for this call. We're using Google Hangouts, which is a perfectly good service. But to do this call, you required each of us to set up Google accounts, to download some software, to test with you, to log in, and to be frank, before this call, I didn't use Google Plus. I was a Skype user. I used other tools. Yeah. And and the reality is, in the world of the future, once some of these early cloud things are worked out, people are going to expect different cloud services to work together, and they're going to expect a cloud of clouds like BlueJeans, which allows you to take your Google Hangouts and your Skype users and your Microsoft Link and those of us that have a nice Polycom conference room and bring all of those together into one event, one meeting. And I think that's the trend: interoperability, clouds of clouds. services that have value for their flexibility as much as for their economics.
Yeah, it must be true. I mean, think about Microsoft's Windows Azure, their infrastructure as a service play. Apparently, they tout how quickly they can run Linux machines on their virtual machines. Which the idea of Microsoft touting how fast they can run Linux machines certainly means interoperability is going to be the future of cloud computing.
Right. Actually, I sort of had one prediction for you, James.
Please, Kaushik, I want to be able to cash in on this. So just between you and me now, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of just sort of echo what John was saying. I think in general, I think the future is going to be less about monetization of services and more about monetization of information and data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because what's going to happen is if you look at what's happened in the consumer space, right? 10 years back you had told me that there's going to be this service that's going to allow you to sync data seamlessly between all your devices, and it's going to actually do it at a flip of a button. You drop a file in and it gets synced automatically, and that's going to be free. You'd have laughed at me, right? Because you're paying $12,000 to NetApp for a terabyte of storage, right? So the point is that what's increasingly happening is that innovation is going to drive the cost of end user services, and what eventually most enterprise, and this is true even of security, is what most enterprises want is information to drive their decision making. So the use of analytics and the use of information to drive decision making, across the spectrum, whether it's security, whether it's teleconferencing, whether it is infrastructure, is going to be key. And I think I firmly believe that is where we'd end up eventually in terms of where customers see value.
It's a lot of good stuff, the four of you. I thank you very much for sharing your expertise. I will send you all a link. We can all promote this and tweet it. Thanks again. A lot of good stuff. And I will be in touch. Thanks.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, James.
All righty. Bye-bye.